like finding these unique pieces. And it's, again, I don't like saying the word pieces because it sounds pretentious, but unique items, clothes, whatever you want to call them. It's just really satisfying. Like finding a bargain in like rummaging through all these clothes is so satisfying. And then knowing that it will have a life outside of like whatever weird town you bought it from, and someone's actually going to love it.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 15 of Seller Radio. We're here with Zoe M from Depop, Isoko, Finds, a bunch of places. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess the best way to start is just to kind of hear your story. How did you get started? What kind of attracted you to the world of reselling?
Okay, so I started when I was really young. I started when I was 14, and it was basically just because I wanted to earn some money, but I wasn't old enough to get a real job. And yeah, that's where I started. I wasn't on Depop to begin with because it didn't exist. I was selling on ASOS Marketplace, and then they changed the way that they worked, and it got too expensive to be like a wardrobe seller is what it was called. So I've been on Depop since the beginning. I had a call with someone at Depop and they were like, I think this is the oldest Depop account I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
When did you join Depop?
I can't actually remember. It must have, I don't know when Depop started.
It was like 2012.
Yeah, I probably was then.
Really, the same year.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
And I can't even remember how I found it. Maybe it was an advert. I don't know. But it timed really well with ASOS changing the way it worked. I tried Etsy and eBay for a bit in between, but they didn't really work out.
So I guess, how did you start kind of finding the items when you were 14, and has that changed over time?
So, not really. I've always gone to charity shops and always gone to markets, like love a bargain. I think when I was younger, it was again because I didn't have much money, and it sounds really like pretentious, but I wanted to not be wearing the same thing as everyone else. So like when people would go to parties and 3 people would turn up in the same Topshop dress, I'd be in something secondhand that not everyone else would have. So that's just me being a pretentious teenager is where it started from, I guess. But my family all love charity shopping and like going to boot fairs and stuff.
Yeah, interesting. And in terms of what you've enjoyed selling, has that changed over time, or have you always kind of enjoyed selling the same items?
No, it's definitely changed. So I only started doing this properly from lockdown.
Okay.
So all through uni and school and stuff, it was like a side hustle. Just it was fun, but I never took it too seriously. I always had other jobs that were a more stable line of income. And then lockdown hit, I didn't have a job, so I started doing Depop full time. And I was like, okay, what's trendy? So I started selling all the like 90s noughties, Morgan deToire, like very pink, very girly, trendy stuff, which is not me at all. So that's what I started doing. And now gradually I'm like, okay, it's actually nicer to be able to sell stuff that I actually like and appreciate. It's kind of annoying though, because it means I'm going to keep half of it. Like this, I was meant to sell. This, I meant to sell. The trousers even, I meant to sell. And then I still sell all the 90s, noughties, girlier stuff to wholesale. Like I'm a wholesaler as well.
Okay.
So that, yeah, because my favorite part of the whole thing is finding the clothes.
Yeah, sourcing it.
Yeah.
So in terms of the wholesale side of things, how does that work?
It's a bit. I'm very new to it, and I'm just doing it on my own. And I'm kind of making it up as I go along. But basically, I have a price list. I have a separate account to my like main Instagram, Depop Instagram account. I have a price list. There's a minimum spend. And then like it's all categorized, and you have a video call. Hopefully I'll be getting a space soon that I can do handpick in person. And you do a call and like I show all the clothes and you say yes or no, and then you place an order.
Interesting.
I was going to ask about when you were younger, like what really drew you to it apart from just wanting to wear other clothes? Like what gets you going about selling clothes?
What gets me going about? I mean, it's just like finding these unique pieces. And it's, again, I don't like saying the word pieces because it sounds pretentious, but unique items, clothes, whatever you want to call It's just really satisfying. Like finding a bargain in like rummaging through all these clothes is so satisfying. And then knowing that it will have a life outside of like whatever weird town you bought it from, and someone's actually going to love it. And also, like older clothes are so much better made than all the modern stuff.
Do you think there's are you going to go into making your own stuff, or do you think buying and reselling other stuff is where you make money and the enjoyment as well?
I definitely not anytime soon will be making anything. I think it's a tricky one. I don't want to upset anyone by saying this, but I think if you're preaching sustainability, but then you're making things new, I know a lot of people are still making things out of dead stock fabric and all that stuff, but I don't know how well they align.
I guess they can make them like in England, with sustainable materials and stuff,
and fair wages and all that stuff. And all these, like all the big sellers that are doing it are very transparent with that. But there's still something. But for me personally, there's still something that I don't.
Yeah,
you can't be fully. I mean, it's impossible to be fully sustainable even as a reseller of secondhand. But I think that's even harder when you're making things new.
So is the sustainability quite a big piece on your mind as well when you're doing it, apart from getting the kick out of finding cool stuff?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was definitely money.
Yeah.
And then then it was oh my God, I just love clothes. And now I'm a bit more grown up. I'm like, okay, the sustainability side is very important. Yeah. But it's so tricky because once you start thinking about it, you're like, oh, like this bit of tape is a bit of plastic that won't be able to be recycled. What if I take a bus to the post office? Then that's like, just there's so many things that add up. You can't be fully sustainable.
Yeah, well, I mean, the shipping is one part of it, isn't
Carbon neutral.
Which we try and help. But I mean, with us, it's tricky because obviously the carbon's still being emitted into the environment. It's not like we're solving the problem once and for all. So like we try our best with offsetting the carbon emissions from each parcel. We actually double it just to be double short. But like still a massive problem with shipping because most of the courier companies, like, I think DPD is 10% green, and Royal Mail's basically 0.
Is it?
Well, they have some, but like as a whole, as a percentage of the thing, I don't want to make a claim. Maybe I'll keep that. But
cut that out.
Cut that out. But yeah, I mean, the courier companies themselves are just not very sustainable at all.
Well, I mean, driving clothes up and down the country or worldwide just isn't very sustainable.
But it's weird with e-commerce. It started out and everyone was like, this is super good for the environment, wasn't it? Because instead of everyone driving to the store, then one person would deliver.
True.
And now they've kind of gone back on that and saying like it's kind of similar because all the drivers having to drive each place, or people are buying more.
Yeah, so it's the classic thing of like doing a however many £100 order from names I'm not going to say specifically.
Yeah.
And then trying it all on and then sending it all back.
Yeah, exactly.
And have you heard all the rumours like, oh, if you buy something on sale, then they burn it because it's cheaper for them to just burn it than...
Yeah, they probably do, to be fair, don't they?
Crazy.
Yeah. The problem is yet to be fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned that you kind of tried Etsy and eBay as platforms. How come those didn't really work for you?
I think Etsy was more vintage than what I was selling, because when I started I was still selling this like similar era of stuff, like 90s is the earliest I'd go, and Etsy back then was not like the 90s was even less vintage than it is now, and eBay's just a bit of a mess. Like as a seller, it's just, I don't know, I can't really get my head around it. I use it to buy on, like I'd love eBay as a platform to buy on, but to navigate as a seller, it's quite hard. I think Depop's unique selling point is that it blends social media with like eBay reselling, and that's something that not anyone had done before. And obviously all these new platforms are kind of similar, but like Depop obviously.
And where do you see the reselling going in the next 5 years? What's the big plan
for me personally?
Yeah, for your business. Yeah.
I don't know. At the moment I'm kind of sick of the online world, so I've been doing way more pop-ups, and I kind of want to get a shop or a studio that could operate as sort of a shop, but these all depend on if I want to go down a more wholesale route or a more shop front route. But basically the online is like taking a bit of a back burner.
But presumably the wholesale's different buying process to the reselling, because wholesale you have to find so much more stuff, or are you finding all of the stuff?
I'm still finding it all. I handpick everything.
Yeah.
So the way that I do it is I I make sure that I'm kind of paying myself a wage when I do it, so that if I'm selling something for £10, that's factored in the time that it's taken me to find it, as well as the initial cost. And because there's a minimum spend, if I have a wholesale order coming up, I know that I'm going to get X amount of profit minimum. But no, sorry?
A bit more reliable, consistent.
Kind of, yeah. It's like the wholesale is more work at the beginning, like finding all the stuff. It's more behind the scenes work. And then once they're all sold, they're out in the world and that's done. And then my own personal shop stuff is more like front of house, like I have to do nice styling or I have to be in a pop-up like selling it. Yeah. But then overall it's more profit, so it's just like where I want to prioritize.
Who's buying the wholesale from you? Other retailers?
Other resellers, other Depop resellers.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And it's a bit of a weird one. Like I haven't shouted about it too much on the wholesale account that like what my Depop is or what my Instagram is or anything, because I think if you were a client you'd be like, well, obviously they're just going to keep the best stuff for themselves. But I'm trying to be very fussy with what my shop aesthetic is at the moment. So there's like not really much pink or like lacy. I don't know. There's some things that I never really will sell that I know are very popular for resellers.
But presumably as well with the wholesale, if you just keep all the good stuff, then you're not going to get any wholesale clients.
Yeah, exactly. You've
got to balance out.
No, I go in knowing that what clients want. Like corsets is a really popular thing that I don't really sell. Just there's certain things that I will only sell wholesale. And there's also certain things that I'm never going to wholesale. I'm never going to wholesale cargo trousers because I just like them too much. And they're quite hard to find.
Yeah. I mean, one of the real issues that kind of Depop sellers or even kind of micro sellers on e-commerce have is kind of getting their products out there so that people can see them and buy them. How would you suggest people do that? Do you have any kind of tips and tricks?
So I never had an Instagram for my Depop the whole way through doing it as a side hustle. And I know other people have done this as well. They've been told by Depop, you need to get an Instagram because you have to be your own marketing, social media team. Often you're the own model and the stylist and the this and that. So I want to recommend getting an Instagram, but at the same time, it's like kind of toxic. And I think there's so much space for people just self-comparing, not just from oh my God, she's so pretty and I'm not. In the same way, it's like, oh, they're being so much more productive than me. They've got a whole studio. They've got a team working for them, which is really tricky when you're all in it together, running your own business, seeing all these other people doing other stuff. It's quite overwhelming.
I guess the way to do it is probably to have your own page and then not follow too many other accounts.
I've got everyone on mute. I don't. I follow however many. I recently unfollowed everyone, and then the algorithm just died, as obviously it would. So then I refollowed however many people, and as I refollowed them, I just muted them. So on my newsfeed, it's literally just me, which is like I don't want to see myself, so I just don't really spend that much time on it, which is nice.
I guess that kind of brings on to the topic of like doing a lot of these businesses are obviously sole people. It's a solo journey. How have you navigated that, especially in like an Instagram world where it's a lot of image first and comparing and stuff like that?
It's so overwhelming. It's also so annoying because I'm like a business account, so you can see all your stats and stuff. And the pictures that I am in, my face or like my body are in, will do so much better than just the clothes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I just have to, I don't know, I have to dress up and like put some makeup on for these Instagram pictures that it just takes up too much energy. And then you don't even see direct sales from it. Obviously it's good overall, but it's quite draining.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in terms of, I guess the Depop algorithm is a tricky one to navigate. Do you have any kind of tips on how to get onto the explore page or, to kind of boost your following on Depop to get more sales?
I don't think the explore page is actually as much as everyone makes it out to be. I think it's good for image, but I've been on the explore page and not sold the things that are on the explore page. The description is the most important thing, I've been told. So the first line needs to be, if you were a buyer, what would you search to type? So let's say this jumper, like navy wool jumper would be the first line. And then in the next bit, you write the full description. That's the most useful thing for the algorithm. Apparently bumping isn't really a thing anymore.
Interesting.
And that's from Depop. Like I've had a one-on-one call when I asked them.
Yeah.
And what about like other groups like Discord or Facebook? Do you get involved in
Or
that?
Slack.
Yeah.
Not really. When I set out my like Depop Instagram, I made a little engagement group, which was nice, like a little mini community of other resellers. So there's nice little pockets like that. But no, I think the ones where there's loads of people, I'd get a bit overwhelmed. But they probably are useful if you're starting out.
Yeah, because we had a lot of our customers buying, selling stuff on Discord. It's slightly different from reselling clothes. They're more reselling like other stuff, like hot tubs and weird things.
Oh my God.
But there's very like vibrant communities and all these different servers. So it's kind of weird how there's lots of different pockets just like all over the internet.
The internet is just such a playground. And like the whole metaverse thing.
Yeah, that is a topic for another time.
Yeah, I know. I keep getting recommended. I've got a friend who works in NFTs. Again, not sustainable at all. But he keeps being like, oh, if you open a shop, you should do like a virtual opening. I was like, I can't be opening a shop being like, I want to be offline.
Yeah.
And then do an NFT related metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing...
completely contradictory.
I've been seeing... I mean, hasn't Adidas created like NFTs for various different clothing items?
Nike bought a company for 50 million and they make like digital shoes.
Oh my God. But who's going to wear them? Your weird little digital self. You make a little thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so freaky.
Well, at least there's no carbon emissions from a digital image, I guess.
Yeah.
No, but there is.
There is?
Yeah. Because of the blockchain.
Oh, because of the...
Yeah, all
mining.
that stuff takes so much energy.
Yeah, good point.
But this is what I was saying earlier. Like once you start thinking sustainably, it's like literally you can't be fully sustainable.
Yeah.
You just have to try and be as fully sustainable as you can. I did a poll recently because so obviously in the resale community, everyone's sustainability is a big thing. Fast fashion, we all know how bad fast fashion is. So many people still shop at Amazon, and Amazon's the worst one of all, and it's really easy to avoid. So I've been trying to get everyone to boycott Amazon, but also I don't want to be like shouting about it. Like,
Yeah, I guess, over time, people start to become more aware of these things, and then kind of trend towards, more sustainable shopping, hopefully over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, slightly different topic, but we were discussing a little bit about kind of prices on these platforms and how recently they've seemed to kind of inflate a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously part of the problem, but I think it's just gone a bit far, and it's tricky because most of the things that are really, really highly priced are brands that are maybe extinct or something. So if it's an item that's actually never going to be made again, then I can understand why you charge a lot for it. It's the basics that aren't even that vintage or aren't even that hard to come by, that maybe an influencer has worn or a famous person has worn. And so suddenly people on Depop think they can charge £70 or £50 for like a very basic top that isn't even in the best condition. It's just because my issue with it is the people that are going to be buying these things will have so much money that they won't understand that is far too high. And it's making it inaccessible to people that don't have that much money, and sustainable clothing should be accessible for everyone.
Do you think that leaves the door open for other people to come in and sell sustainable clothing at a lower price?
I mean, there are plenty of people selling them for lower prices, and there's also, not everyone is perfect. Like some of my prices are probably really high. Not everyone who I'm talking about that has really high prices just exclusively sell higher price things. It's more the things that are micro trending, which in itself isn't sustainable, that blow up in price. And like everyone suddenly wants that one thing that one person wore so that they can be like them and are willing to pay £70 for it. I just think it's a bit, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable though, isn't it? On such a big marketplace, things get hyped up and then people put up the price.
I just don't know who, I don't understand it, because I think the people buying them are mostly teenagers who are looking up to these influencers and celebrities and stuff. But how, like, in what world does a teenager have £70 to spend on a top? Or like, And then I'm like, okay, they're probably from a very wealthy background, so it's their parents' money. And then I'm like, I just get a bit freaked out by it because I don't want to be, I don't know.
Have you seen the prices kind of increase over time since you've been on Depop? Has it been every year, or is it kind of just in the last 12 months or 6 months?
I don't know if I'm just more in tune to it, but it's a classic thing. If you've been on Depop for a while, a lot of sellers will like post something that they sold maybe 3 years ago, like a Nike jumper that didn't mean anything back then. And then they're like, oh my God, like I sold it for only £30 and now it's worth £150. And I don't think it's productive to think like that at all, because back then it wasn't trending. And back then £30 was really decent for what you wanted to make on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's lockdown. I think Depop blew up, obviously, because we're all inside. So I think there's a lot of new sellers, or like me, like sellers that start to take it seriously from lockdown onwards. That's probably just inflated it hugely, and therefore inflated all the prices.
Yeah. A lot of people join those platforms as well. So a lot of people,
buyers as well. Yeah.
And buyers as well. So suddenly, you're a seller and you're selling out every week. So like, well, if I put the prices up, then I can still sell everything, but make a bit more money.
Make more money.
I was going to ask about your pop-up shops, because that's a sort of different direction you're going.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that, and to any sellers listening, like, what do you enjoy about that, and what your tips for that?
So I think pop-ups are just going to blow up this year because
people coming out again.
Yeah. Everyone's obviously, Depop was great when we had nothing to do when we were in lockdown, but now we can actually go into the real world and see clothes in real life and like chat to the sellers. And I don't know, it's just nice to have a face-to-face conversation with someone instead of doing it behind a screen. Most of the pop-ups that I do, all the other sellers will do it for cheaper because you're not paying Depop fees. You save money on postage. I've genuinely made friends from all the pop-ups that I've done.
Yeah, it's more of an experience, isn't it?
Yeah, for the seller and the buyer, it's just so nice. Like, it's a really nice community, in real life community thing.
Yeah, I mean, I personally been trying to buy a pair of jeans online.
It's impossible.
Nightmare, doesn't work. So I need to go to like a pop-up shop or something.
You should come to Brighton. My friend's got a shop in Brighton.
Maybe I will.
You should come. Get some jeans.
How do you think platforms like Digital Galaxy have helped with that? Have you come across them before?
Digital Galaxy, are they the?
So you can basically
the live streaming one. Yeah, I've done a live with them.
How is that? Do you think that kind of helps a little bit with kind of bridging the gap between almost kind of no interaction with customer on a Depop versus pop-up shop where you're kind of talking to the customer about an item before they purchase?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good idea. I found it a bit overwhelming because I've like done lives on Instagram before, and what I quite like about them is that I can just be a bit scatty and like not really plan it too much. Whereas with Galaxy, to do one of those live things, you have to take pictures of all the stuff beforehand, and then those are the things that you do. So it's kind of like twice as much work. But I think if you're an established presence online, it's really nice to interact with, I guess, your fans and people that look up to you. But because I don't really have a following, or the only reason people are following me is for the clothes. It's not really the same thing.
Yeah. How often do you do the Instagram lives?
I did one the other day, but it was honestly chaos. I was just like, I'm sorting my stock room out, and I thought I'd go on live because I haven't been on live for a while. There's no set time to when I do them. I know a lot of people will do them when they get a big stock delivery in, because it's a good way to just show your stock. And then if people buy directly from the live, you don't have to do a proper listing, which saves you time.
Interesting.
Forever a Mirror definitely like invented Instagram lives. Well, okay,
really?
Not invented, but yeah.
Big advocate for. Do they do a lot?
Yeah, they just, I don't know. She started doing them, I don't know when, but she'll like almost sell out from just doing lives.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's the whole kind of live streaming e-commerce is, I mean, there's a company in India who does this. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, unfortunately. But they're quite a new business, and they, started doing kind of a platform where sellers can stream and kind of show off their items, etc., and blew up. Absolutely blew up. So
it's called, isn't it XXXXX or something like that?
That sounds dodgy.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure it is called that.
Don't Google
zero,
that.
zero, zero,
Oh,
zero,
00. Yeah. So I mean, it's done pretty well. I mean, it's quite an interesting take on it, because there's the difficulty with, I mean, I guess that the main problem is that if you buy from Depop, you can't try on the item, so you don't know how it looks.
Yeah, and then
you.
Even if you've got the measurements, so many people will then want to return it because it doesn't fit them right. It's like all the measurements are there, like, but it's just impossible.
Yeah, interesting. And just again, kind of slightly different topic, but when you look when you look at items, right, and you're going through them and you're trying to find one that you want to buy to then resell, what's the criteria? Is it purely based on what you would wear, what you like, or are you looking at trends, or what's the plan?
I don't really know. I think because I'm wholesaling as well, I've got like a category of different people in the back of my head thinking, would they want to sell this? Or like, would I want to sell this? Or would someone else want to buy? Like, there's so many things. Definitely don't just look at brand names. It's quite a frustrating thing on the wholesale account. I've had so many people just asking for specific brands. And it's like, just because something is whatever brand doesn't necessarily mean it's nice. But people just think like, oh, Miss 60, it must be nice. I try and get things that are good quality. Like, if it was from H&M or something, but modern, I just know it's going to fall apart. But then that older stuff where it used to be called like Henny's, that stuff is good quality. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's a bit of a gut instinct these days.
Yeah, I don't. And I've gone to like sourcing with other people before and they've shown me something and I'm like, no, absolutely not. And then something very similar, I'll be like, yes, definitely. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. I'm sure if you asked other resellers like what their shop aesthetic was, it would be a similar thing of like, you just kind of know.
Yeah. Do you think that's like got better a lot over the years, or is it you stay quite true to what it was like 5 years ago?
Well, I think it's definitely changed a lot because I'm now supplying for other resellers, not just customers. So I've got a lot of different
opinions,
criteria and like opinions. Yeah.
Do you look for? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, do you look for trends when you're doing that, or not at all? You ignore the kind of short term trends?
I mean, I think naturally everyone falls into trends, but I almost, again, it's going to sound really up myself, but like when something becomes trendy, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of bored of it. Like if someone wears some fancy brand and now it's like all over, like secondhand brand, and now it's all over whatever, like Copcapine, there's a brand called Copcapine that suddenly is blown up. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm kind of bored of it, which isn't a very good business model because I should be buying into the trends so that I can make money off them.
Yeah, I guess a counter to that would be you kind of want to buy before the trend.
Before the trend.
So then, because if you buy during the trend, then it's all kind of already high priced. Yeah. So, but if you do it before and you can spot them in advance.
Yeah,
then...
but I've had this brand in particular, I've had on my shop for like 2 years, and it's not until it's become trendy that it's selling, which is just a bit frustrating.
Why did it become trendy?
Isabella Verana wore a maxi Copcapine skirt, and I genuinely had about 20 messages after she wore this skirt in an Instagram post on this skirt that I've had on my page probably like a year. And it's sold now, but it's just crazy the influence that people have.
Do you see any trends coming up in the next kind of year or two to look out for?
I don't know. I think so many people are trying to do like 2022 trend predictions, and it's just stuff that's already trending. It's like everyone is I was talking to a friend about it. Everyone is waiting for someone to like be like, this is going to be the next thing for summer. Last summer, hibiscus print was like huge. And I don't know what the next thing is going to be.
Interesting.
But no, I personally don't know.
Yeah.
Last question for me is, what is the one thing you would say to a reseller out there who is going along his or her journey?
A new person?
Yeah, let's say a year in.
A year in. Treat it like a job. Yeah. So I don't listen to this advice myself, and I really should, but give yourself at least 2 days off a week where you just don't go on Depop. Turn your notifications off so that it's on your terms, that you're checking all that stuff. If someone's going to buy something, they can wait a day. They can wait 2 days. I find the people that are very needy and like I can buy this right now probably won't even buy it anyway.
Yeah, you need to have a break from
and
also like then you come back to it with new ideas.
Yeah.
Always in it, then you'll just
just
burn out.
And I also would say like take some time off it before you go to bed and when you wake up, because there's a meme where it's like, I don't have a 9 to 5, I have a 24/7 job. If you're a business owner, and especially if you're the only person running it. So I think, just giving yourself some space to not just let it be your entire life is really important. And it'll overall be better in the long run because you won't burn out or get bored of it or feel too overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Cool. Well, Zoe, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on.
I feel like I rambled a lot. But
No, that's the whole point.
Exactly.
That's what a podcast is.
Yeah, big ramble.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. And on to the next one.
Awesome.